The Alldus podcast is brought to you by Alldus International, supplying your expert AI and digital transformation staffing needs across the US and Europe. Today, you are listening to our ServiceNow series, where we interview the best and brightest of the industry to share their story, advice, and views on the exciting world of ServiceNow and digital transformation.
You're listening to the Alldus podcast ServiceNow series. Our guest today is James Burson. James is the practice lead for ServiceNow at Jade Global. James, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, JP. Nice to see you.
Yeah, you as well, my friend. You as well. So delighted to finally get you on the show. We've got lots to cover, but as we do with all of our guests, let's start with yourself. Could you give us a little bit of a summary of your background in technology and what your journey has been from where you got started early on, some of the roles you've held along the way, what's led you to where you are today, Senior Director and the ServiceNow Practice Lead for Jade Global?
Absolutely. I started in IT back in the 90s. So been doing this a long time, and my journey has definitely moved from area to area, and I've had the pleasure and the opportunity to work in several different areas. Spent most of my time in things related to IT infrastructure oriented spaces for a very long time. So for instance, I ran field service for an organization for the better part of 10 years and then did some more of that at another job right after that. And so that was a very multidisciplinary process, right? We were doing all sorts of the routine dispatch activities, right? But it was for IT gear. And so you're sending people out to replace computers and custom parts and big plasma screen TVs and all sorts of unusual things that don't really fit in a single box very well because you're also doing the configuration on the fly on these things. And that's also where I really got started doing asset management, which we'll talk a little bit more about as we move forward, because that's something else I spent a lot of time doing here. But I did field service. I've done support from a tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 perspective in national and international organizations. I've done, and then started doing ServiceNow, frankly, at one of my customer jobs. At this point, almost 13 years ago, I joined a company that had ServiceNow on the Berlin release, and we had to reboot it because it was all messed up. So we processed our way through that. Since then, also had the opportunity to bring ServiceNow in either the whole units or the whole platform, that is, or individual module enhancements into 4 different customers. And then I joined consulting spaces about 4 years ago. So Jade is now my second full-time consulting space opportunity here. When it's been great to join. I worked at another partner as well. In that process, I've managed to pick up, I think, 8 certifications on the ServiceNow platform, along with a lot of other expertise and experiences on everywhere from the actual development through leveraging the process component activities and interacting with business team leads, but also executives. So we can try to find ways to help the ServiceNow platform really meet those needs, which is, it's been great. And I've really enjoyed my whole trip.
Yeah, amazing. And we'll get to your role and responsibilities in a bit more detail in a moment, but just want to remind the audience, I know we've had somebody from Jade on the podcast in earlier episodes, but please set the stage again. Tell us a little bit about Jade Global, who you are, what you do, mission of the business.
Absolutely. So Jade Global, we're a systems integrator, and we are really well known in several of the solution verticals. So we're really well known in Oracle and Salesforce. A little bit less well known has been our ServiceNow practice. The company's been around for 21 years, and really our guiding light at Jade is centered around helping how we ensure customer success. We're the trusted partner for guiding people on their enterprise journey. And one of the things I love about Jade is the fact that our first customer from 21 years ago is still a customer. So when we say that we have this customer focus, there's stuff behind that. It's not just empty words. From a ServiceNow perspective, we've been doing ServiceNow projects overall, the team, for over 10 years. We've been in the official partner ecosystem for 8 or 9 years. And we've got hundreds of projects under our belts at that time here at the group. And it's just an exciting place to be.
So let's jump into your roles. Talk to us a little bit about the transition. What initially got you interested in making that switch, and give us the landscape of what your primary responsibilities are, from the size of the team to the day-to-day interactions, both on the implementation side, but how you work with customers? Because I know it's all encompassing. So first, what brought you to Jade? What was it about the organization? And secondly, then just give us the high level, what you're mainly responsible for.
So Jade is, as you said, a system integrator, and really what attracted me to the opening that came through here was the idea that they were looking for somebody to change the direction of what had been going on. Jade had been in the partner system for a long time, but hadn't probably taken full advantage of the opportunities that were out here. And coming with some of the experiences I had from my customer times, working with a bunch of other partners, a number of whom don't actually exist anymore, right, because of the people closing or people getting acquired by other companies. And so I've been lucky enough in my career to experience what I thought were some really great interactions, and I really want to try to bring that kind of approach and as along with the technical aspects and really help Jade re-envision itself for the next few years, really restructure ourselves and reestablish what is an actual long-standing relationship with ServiceNow. In my day-to-day role, right, at the practice lead perspective, you get the usual sort of business components, right? There's the HR pieces and some of the things, but the things that I spend most of my time doing are things around like business development here. So I spend a lot of time with our sales teams, working through with our current customers, along with also looking for helping new customers figure out that Jade is a company that can help them achieve their goals within the ServiceNow platform, and sometimes actually envision things that they didn't know were possible, that there wasn't a solution for because it wasn't a well-known thing. So I spend a good amount of time doing that, and I jump in once in a while and do help some of my team too with some of the more interesting process conversations. And every once in a while, I still run demos and all that sort of fun thing. Like you said, it's a little multidisciplinary at times, but it's really something I enjoy doing most of the time. So.
James, you and I were speaking off air and discussing what we should cover on this particular episode. One of the first things you said to me was the focus on what's new and exciting. Obviously, the ServiceNow platform has been growing at a tremendous rate. And with the introduction of the Gen AI capabilities, it really is starting to become quite advanced for many customers, but you're on the front lines in helping organizations utilize the platform day to day. What are some of the more exciting parts that you're looking forward to working on going into 2025?
That's a fantastic question. Thanks for asking that. From my perspective, right, I think some of our listeners here will have recognized that ServiceNow has started down this path of industry verticalization, and some of these verticals have been with ServiceNow for several years at this point. We've had a finance team, there's been a healthcare group, so a couple of other ones here, and they've really, last year, they added some other things like manufacturing, and by all looks and feels, things like that, they've been telegraphing that they're continuing down that path. And where that changes things, in my opinion, is, again, I've worked in a bunch of different industries as I moved around over my career, and I see places where ServiceNow moving itself out of the talking to IT only and helping people in other business units recognize certainly the power of the platform, but the ability to actually digitize workflows in ways that have never happened. So one of the nice things I was able to do with my last organization, actually, I spent a long time with them as we sort of built out one of the new suites works on how to handle these projects in the manufacturing space. The operational technology suite that's out here is still a really bleeding edge kind of idea here from an industry 4.0 perspective, how we help these organizations that are really physically front end, right? They're manufacturers. You got robot arms and conveyor belts and all this other fun stuff going on, and you have to figure out, how do I manage that better going forward? How do I secure that information? How do I do lifecycle management in ways that have never really been done in a single digitized platform before? And ServiceNow, has launched that product, and it's actually starting to get a lot of very interesting play there. So I think that's one of the really cool things. Honestly, there's a lot of space also in things like the healthcare industry, right, where ServiceNow has had a few products out here, but there's a whole suite of new capabilities and also just things that are just in the business that are hard to come by. This is an area that I've really been learning the last few months myself, because one of the other interesting things about Jade is that we have an actual dedicated healthcare vertical team ourselves, and that like bridges multiple groups, right? There's ServiceNow, is something we're working with them and building correctly. But they do a lot with healthcare, Salesforce, Oracle, ERP systems, and all this sort of thing. And what we've really found is that there's a bunch of really interesting use cases that we are in the process of helping to figure out the good way to solve for these healthcare organizations. Things like patient onboarding, other things as well that are out here that I'm going to be a little cagey because we've got a couple things they're planning on coming to market the first part of the quarter in 2025. And that'll be all coming out, more information from us here somewhere around the sales kickoff cycle, and it'll all be out there certainly before we get to Knowledge next year. But we're really excited about some of the solutions we've been building that add to our existing suite of solutions that Jade has had for some time. The nice thing about this too is some of the things we're building, as you mentioned, also give us this opportunity to help customers really envision where, like the ServiceNow Gen AI capabilities are. And ServiceNow, the nice thing for me at least is what I see, and having been on the platform for so long, ServiceNow isn't just throwing words at that concept, right? They've actually found, I think, one of the more powerful use cases here, which is really about how do we improve the productivity of the people we already have. We're trying to automate things even further with certainly with workflows, but also helping people really improve the self-service concepts, things that have been around and been a core part of the platform for almost their entire time the platform's been here. Right? We want people to be able to find their answers through smarter chatbots or through, hey, somebody put in an incident for this and it can automatically be delegated off to one of these agents that they've created, and it can handle some of that stuff with the end user much faster and not let you have to wait for a trained agent on the service desk or someplace else in the organization. I think the way they've come up with that was a much better use case than some of the other stuff I see out in the generic public for AI. And so I think that's really exciting too. And lastly, what I would say too is, as Jen said before, really where the power of this platform really is they don't stop. Right? It's not like they said, okay, we're going to do this, we're going to cross the finish line, and we're all just going to coast. ServiceNow doesn't do that. And so even though like they've got a serious focus on AI, it's always been very clear to me that they passed one of those milestones, and by then they've already got 2 or 3 more they're headed down. And I'm really excited to see what else starts to come out of the system as they really enable more of their technology stack for all of us. It's great.
You are listening to the Alldus podcast. When you're looking to scale your team, or if you are interested in showcasing your company in a future episode, reach out today. Or if you're in the market for a new role, visit our website to view open positions, www.alldus.com.
James, focusing on one of the interesting aspects of your role, obviously leading the practice as the platform evolves and the demand for ServiceNow from the ever-growing customer base at Jade Global evolves. Part of your responsibility is to make sure that you have the talent and the team part of the group to help offer these new implementations, make sure you have the talent and the skill set and ability within Jade to offer the newest and greatest of what ServiceNow has to offer. When you look at the near-term roadmap, like particularly the next 12 to 18 months, where do you see Jade Global growing in its ServiceNow offerings? How will that translate into career opportunities for people who are already a member of the community?
So where I would say we take that answer from my point of view is Jade Global has some really interesting things going for it that are a little bit more unique, I think, in the partner ecosystem. Among other things, we have actually achieved the Great Place to Work certification, both in our India location and also in the US locations, a couple of years in a row now, which is like just one of those very interesting differentiators, frankly. We spent a lot of time with the culture components of this organization as a whole. Joining this place, everyone here is my entire journey through this whole process of onboarding the last 6 or so months has been very pleasant with everybody. Everyone's always looking for how do we do best for the customer, but also how do we make sure that our employees are in a good place so that they're able to achieve some of their career goals, both of the immediate term, but also build for the future. What we look at is we grow here is making sure that we balance out in a wise way the role set we need, but also what some of this experience is. The ability for people who have lived experience is very important in a consulting kind of space. we always want to try to make sure we're balancing the technical build needs with people who can really meet the customer where they are on a day-to-day basis. Somebody who's already, for instance, the easy example is if someone's already been a service desk manager before and they come in and they're helping us do like an ITSM expansion or something like that, they have their own bank of lived experience, their own stories that resonate with the customer base versus somebody who is maybe only jumped in from something else and never worked in that job. Right, and this is what we see in all consulting spaces. My previous experience, not just at Jade, and so we try to make sure that the folks that we want to bring in have some of that in balance to some of the technical needs, and so we try to find that kind of folks who have both some previous experience. The trick is always that ServiceNow staffing is still a fairly aggressive market in most ways. And so everybody who's, I think, probably listening to this is seen this before, but even to this day, I probably get 8 or 10 emails from agencies or recruiters or somebody asking me if I'm interested in some opening that they have. And I think almost everybody's probably in a similar boat, right? Like the organizations are out here don't have enough staff, and we still see a lot of people moving back and forth, and that's great from the employee perspective. At the employer side, right, trying to make sure we create a culture and a team set and provide people the opportunities for meaningful work, but also good career growth and good coworker environment is something we really strive to do. Luckily, Jade has got a lot of that in place for us, and that's really what part where we continue to go down.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. The demand is higher than the supply, and year over year, the demand grows at a faster rate than new people coming into the ecosystem. And look, ServiceNow is doing a tremendous job of promoting the opportunities through its next gen projects and some other initiatives. But the reality is there's always going to be competition for the top level talent. And again, you and I were speaking off air around what were the factors that brought you to Jade, and now as you work on scaling the team yourself next year, what are some of the standout things that you'll focus on? And the best way I frame this, I typically finish most of the podcast now with this question. If you are speaking to a talented ServiceNow professional, let's say it was somebody you'd worked with in the past and you felt they would be a good fit for Jade, what is it that you tell them about the environment, the mission, the culture, and the opportunity that would get them excited enough to join Jade Global over one of the many other organizations trying to hire the same talent?
What I would say is that Jade has been a really welcoming place for me to join myself, and I know that exact same thing will happen for everybody else who comes with us. Every organization is just a little bit different. As I mentioned before, we do have a great place to work certification, which is not a super easy thing for organizations to get. And we have that both for our offshore and our onshore team set, which is great. And it shows you also how Jade really spends time doing that. Part of what really helped me pick Jade was the sense of opportunity and the fact that we have a very good greenfield opportunity here for us to set some really fun and also like customer-centric ways of doing things going forward. And we're given a lot of license to reimagine good portions of how we want to deliver this and really become super well known in the world for specific kinds of things. The other thing I will say too is we're also cognizant of the idea that we're not here to boil the ocean. The platform has gotten to be too big, and we're not asking to be jack of all trades and masters of none, right? We have as we move forward here over the next year or two, you'll start to see us really become known in a couple of key areas as we finish this sort of build cycle for ourselves here for the next generation of Jade. And for folks who are thinking about whether or not Jade would be right for them, definitely love to talk to you guys, let you hear a little bit more behind the scenes aspects there, and so get your take. The opportunities out here for the build and the ability to do some fun things are, I wouldn't say limitless, but there's going to be a lot of them.
James, thank you so much for coming on today and doing the podcast. I know we've been talking about getting you here for a while, so I'm delighted we finally got it done. We wish you, the team, and everyone at Jade the best of luck in 2025, and look forward to having you back on the show again in the near future.
Absolutely. It's been a great time talking with you guys, and I hope everybody has a great rest of your day.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Alldus podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. We are available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and any Android podcast of choice. You can also head over to our website, www.alldus.com, to listen to more podcasts, view our open roles, and stay up to date with industry news. Thanks for listening, and stay tuned for more great episodes coming very soon.